Hello and welcome back to the Matrix Green Pill podcast. I'm Hilary Hutchison, and today I'm excited to introduce a true culinary visionary, a chef whose journey is as extraordinary as his creations. Yurii Kovryzhenko is the head chef of YOY Neo Bistro and a global ambassador for Ukrainian cuisine. Once a professional sculptor, he transformed his passion for artistry into gastronomy, earning recognition from the Michelin Guide and opening restaurants in Seoul, Tbilisi, London, and the Seychelles. Yurii's work merges tradition with innovation, redefining flavors through molecular techniques and sustainable practices. Yurii, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Yurii, your journey is truly fascinating. From being a sculptor to becoming a world-renowned chef. Can you take us back to that pivotal moment when you decided to pursue cooking as a career?
It was transformed in 2008 was the global financial crisis. Maybe you remember, it was awful. And before that, I had my sculpture manufactory. I didn't think to go to the kitchen. And as all of the students in the students' time, I work as a waiter and a bartender to have some money for the date with the girls. But after I launched my jewelry factory, because I'm a sculpture miniaturist, so I'm working with the gold and silver. And when this global crisis is coming in 2008, I lose everything. I was a bankrupt. So I start to looking for my way in this new world. And I already was in the Buddhist Sangha, it's like the Japanese way of the Buddhism, Soto Zen school. I decided to change my life and find my way, and I'm going to the monastery for like rethinking everything in my life. And I spent there around 1 year. And when I was there, the master is coming to me after 2 weeks and he tell me, you are a nice guy, really, but we are in France. It's the highest taxes in the world. Even the monks is working. So it's not a retreat. You can't have a retreat during 1 year. What you can do? I was a sculptor. I was a waiter. And he told me, okay, you can't be a waiter in France because you don't speak French, but I have ideas. So he's called his friend and she's coming the next day and pick up me to the restaurant where I start as a commis from the lowest level. We call it green guys, who is clean the greens, who is peel the potato, chopped onions, and other dirty things. I still hate the shallots. I can't saw them. That was my way, and that was the moment when I decided that this is the best place in the world. It's a kitchen.
Amazing. So from having such an awful experience in 2008, when, as you say, so many people lost a lot during that period of time, just trying to survive. I like how you said you were just earning enough money to take girls out. I think I love that honesty. To then going to this Buddhist monastery in France, and then being told this is not a retreat. You have to also contribute. And then being willing to start at the very bottom in the kitchen. And yet that changed your life. How did that experience shape your perspective on food, creativity, and life?
The main idea of the Zen Buddhism is the attention. You should be attentive in everything, like in every moment. Even when you chop the onion, you should think about the onion, to not cut your fingers or to not throw away a lot of product. Now I use a lot of Buddhist practice in my work, especially in attentiveness and how I organize the kitchen and the working process.
I love that. And I think that is a very valuable skill to have learned, to be attentive, to be in the moment. I have found in my own life, I can process a lot of things at the same time. And I'm in conversation with somebody and then I'm looking around the room at the next thing I need to do. And I've missed opportunities to be in that moment. So I think that is something that's not natural for everybody. It is something that you've got to develop and be conscious to do. And I love that that's something that you say that you're also doing. And it's so important, as you say, in the kitchen, because you could lose a finger if you're not attentive while you are using sharp utensils. You've trained at some of the world's finest culinary schools. So you started out in this kitchen at the very bottom, and then you've gone ahead and you have trained at some of the world's finest culinary schools. What were the most valuable lessons that you learned during that time and that still influences your cooking today?
I was quite adult guy, so I'm not coming to the kitchen when I was a kid, yeah, or teenager. I was the guy who is have the good practice. When I'm returned from France to Ukraine, I have a really great practice, but I don't have at the moment the academic base. So I decided to train my knowledge in the best school. So I start to spend all my salary that I had at the moment in the best culinary schools. That's true. It was the École Ferrandi in Paris. After that was the Ritz Escoffier, the Place Vendôme and Hotel Ritz in one of the eldest hotels in the world. It was the Basque Culinary Center in the Spain, in the Basque Country, in San Sebastian, and a few Italian schools, because I think the French and Italian gastronomy, it's the basic for all gastronomy in the world, especially the French one, because the Auguste Escoffier and Marie-François Carême there create the system. And the kitchen is the system. That's the biggest knowledge. It's not only the artists and some creation of the dishes. That chef, it's a manager. That's the main idea. The manager who is managed the process at the kitchen. I think the best culinary schools gave you the techniques and give you the knowledge to use the techniques. So what's the difference between the regular chef and the head chef? The head chef can create the dishes because he knows the techniques. And the regular chef, he can just cooking according to the recipes. That's all. He don't have the knowledge how to working the products, what's the chemical processing, what's the physical processing. It's all about the kitchen. Kitchen, it's chemistry.
That's fantastic. So, as you say, because you immersed yourself in these three different and very different culinary experiences, French, Spanish, and Italian, you got the basics, you understand the techniques, and because of that, you're able to then put things together and create something rather than just being somebody who's following a recipe. And that's a huge difference between somebody who can create and somebody who's just following what somebody else has created.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think this also then comes into what you do today, because Ukrainian cuisine is at the heart of your work. So how do you redefine traditional dishes while preserving their authenticity?
Why Ukrainian food? Because everything is coming from the childhood. You agree? It's like our basement. And you always return to the recipes of your mom or grandmom. And when you think about the home, you always think about some food flavors and taste which you remember from your childhood. That's why Ukrainian is the basement for me. I try to save the taste and flavor, but I change the shape, the presentation to make it more nice view for the modern guests, because Ukrainian food a lot of years was on the shelf and waiting for the time, because at the time of Soviet Union, they are not give for us opportunity to use some roots and knowledge of the previous Ukrainians. So that's why I'm trying to save and refound the Ukrainian food. And then sure, I use the new techniques which I got during my traveling around the world. Because if I found something in the Korea when I lived there in the Seoul, sure, I want to try to use that techniques at my work. And for example, when I lived in the Seoul and try to make there the Ukrainian restaurant, it was quite tough because it was just before COVID and before pandemic time. We didn't know that it's happened. We were open there, the restaurant, and I start to change the recipes according the Korean product. For example, everybody knows the Ukrainian borscht, yeah? Somebody call it soup, but it's not the soup for Ukrainians. It's more like a ramen for Japanese, because it's the main course and the soup at the same time. At my restaurant in Korea, the most popular dish was the soup. We call it kapusnyak, and it's made from the shukrut. The Koreans, they have the absolutely great kimchi product, and they are made from that product soup, kimchi jjigae, which are very similar to Ukrainian kapusnyak. So I just to add a little bit more spiciness, and it was very similar dish, because my mission is to fall in love with Ukrainian food from others, from other nations. That's why I should give them some tastes which they are loved from the childhood. So I try to make the Ukrainian food more similar to the food of the countries where I opened the restaurant.
Very, very interesting. So you're preserving that authenticity of Ukraine, but also adding something to it and redefining it in accordance to the things that you've learned, to the new techniques that you've learned, and also to adjust to the various countries that you've opened restaurants in. As you've mentioned, you've opened restaurants in cities around the world. So how do different locations and local ingredients influence your approach to menu creation? I think you sort of touched on that in your last answer.
It's a very similar answer, but I try to use always only local products because I'm a part of the global slow food community, and I'm very appreciate for the guys who is create that philosophy to use the local product and the seasoned product because they have more flavor, more taste, more vitamins. And when you use the local product, you give the local people something similar to their taste. You know, the beetroot here in Dubai and the beetroot in the Seoul or in London, they're totally different one. But I made the same soup, the same borscht, and I used the local beetroot here, local beetroot at the Seoul, and this starts to have a taste more similar to the local taste.
That makes absolute sense that you don't try and import everything and to make it exactly like it would be in Ukraine, but you're using the local product. And so it has that sense of the Ukrainian authenticity, but with the local flavor because you have sourced the products locally. I absolutely love that. And that's in line also with your belief in sustainability. And I think we'll get into that a little bit more later on. You mentioned something, you are part of the slow food community. Can you explain that to us a little bit? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, in the 70s of the 20th century, the student community in Italy, they are organized the movement against the fast food. It was against the McDonald's because McDonald's is coming to Italy and starts to build the first McDonald's in Rome. And at that moment, the McDonald's was like a global change who is bring their own taste, like a milkshake and the burger in every country where they're coming. And these Italian students, they are ruined the place where the McDonald's starts to build the new restaurant. And they are bring the long tables, put it there, bring the products from their homes. And they have the lozenge, which was, we don't want a fast food, we want a slow food with the local products, with traditions. And you know that it was the first moment when the McDonald's has changed the rules and starts to create the recipes and the burgers from country to country with the local taste.
That's fantastic. I've not heard of this before, so I love that you've explained that to us. There was this movement against fast food, and it's called slow food. I love it. Fantastic. Thank you for explaining that.
The guy who is organized at Carlo Petrini, he is still working with the slow food. He is like a owner head of the slow food, and he's absolutely amazing guy. He's even have like a Nobel Prize. Need to check. Don't remember because he's changed a lot in agriculture in Italy and around the world globally.
What I also love about this idea of slow food, I think with fast food and these days everything is so convenient and easy to order and get, especially in places like Dubai. I think many people have forgotten how to cook because everything is just delivered and it's so easy to get. And I think to be able to still know how to cook, how to put flavors together is definitely a skill that is being lost, unfortunately.
Yeah, we were come back to like 60s, 50s when the Julia Child starts to teach the Americans how to cook. It's the same way now, yeah.
Absolutely. Your molecular borscht has earned recognition in the Michelin Guide. Can you tell us about the inspiration behind it and how you approach molecular gastronomy?
The molecular gastronomy is, be honest, it's die already. It's stay like a part of the global gastronomy. It's not something unique. It's quite old techniques. And it was around 10 years ago when I'm create that borscht, and it was created for the World Gourmet Summit in Singapore because I have the idea to show for the people not the traditional gastronomy because it's looking quite strange, very village style, how to grain mice cooking. But the World Gourmet Summit, it was something really amazing before COVID. It's like around 10, oh, no, not 10, 100 chefs is coming from all around the world into Singapore. They're cooking during the months. They are make master classes. They are have some forehands dinner or pop-up dinners. And I understand that I should show something different. And that's why I'm create that molecular borscht. And at that moment, it was in time and it was very interesting. The theme, the change of the shape. But the main idea was to save the taste and the flavor.
Amazing. Well, congratulations on the success of your molecular borscht. To be recognized in the Michelin Guide is for sure a fantastic achievement. So congratulations on that. Another concept that you have mentioned is called culinary diplomacy. It's an interesting concept. Can you explain to us what this is and how do you use food as a bridge between cultures and nations?
The last 10 years, I'm co-working with Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, and I'll made more than 100 events around the world in around 30 countries. Everywhere, we are trying to represent Ukrainian culture through the food. I think it's the soft power and the food is going to your heart directly. And it's not my example, but it's really good to explain how the culinary diplomacy is working. For example, we are back to the 20th century and before Second World War, the king of the UK is going to America for the meeting with the president and ask them support the UK in the Second World War, which is coming. It was in 1938. And at that moment, the American society was against the England because they are still remember the war for the independence and economical war. So the president can't help the UK because he can lose their voters at the next elections. He make very good trick. He organized the picnic near the White House and he feed the royal family the hot dogs of the Nathan's famous company. It was very known hot dogs in New York and Washington, and it was the food for the simple people, for everybody. The hot dog cost like 20 cents at that moment, I think. So it was the food of the people. The next day, the whole press is print the picture of the king of the England who is eating the hot dog, which all the guys at the street eating at the moment. And you know what? The whole society of America there support the help for the UK. So the food can change everything, even the Second World War.
I love that you shared that historical example with us, how important food can be. Let's talk a little bit about Dubai. You're now based in Dubai. What excites you most about the region's food scene, and how are you incorporating desert-grown produce into your dishes?
The Dubai, I think it's unique place in the world now. I think it's the middle of the global gastronomy culture at that moment. What do we have at the map? If we are check, we have the New York, we have the Paris, we have the London, we have the Tokyo, Hong Kong, Singapore, and the Dubai. I even can imagine some other cities where it can be the center of the global gastronomy. But the London, the New York, maybe the New York also the same opened the Dubai, but the London, the Paris, the Tokyo, they are very close society, and it's very hard to give some new flavors and taste. Believe me, I know that because I had the restaurant in London before, so I know how it's tough to give some new tastes and new flavors and try to explain the people that it's good. But the Dubai, it's out of the box. The people here is ready to taste something new. And when I'm coming, I'm start to discover the local products. For example, today I was at the farm who is producing the edible flowers and some microgreens because in the chef society, I have the nickname a botanist because I use a lot of edible flowers. I was really surprised that the people makes the real magic in the middle of the desert. They are create the oasis where a lot of flowers, where's a lot of greens which we can use for the food, and it's real magic. They're wizards. What I can tell you. The same with the veggie tomatoes, cucumbers, because we made a lot of fermented vegetables and pickles in the YOY restaurant. And for example, the gherkins we also made from the local farm cucumbers, which we are taking from Ukrainian guy who is organized the farm in the middle of the desert also. Is the pure magic that some absolutely empty space for the last 30 years was changed to something like a fairy tale place.
I love how you describe that. And I love how people call you a botanist because of your use of edible flowers. And as you also mentioned earlier, you are growing the food locally, or you're using the food that's grown locally. So it has that, it's grown in the desert, it's not grown in the rainforest or in Europe somewhere. It's grown locally.
We don't feel the value of these things because they're everywhere. But here, where's nothing, that people don't have nothing 30 years ago. But now it's the oasis. It's great. It's a pure magic.
I want to get back to what we spoke about earlier about sustainability. I know that sustainability is a growing trend in dining and in fine dining as well. How do you balance eco-friendly practices with innovation in cuisine?
Yeah, the sustainability is the main thing for the chef and for every people, for every person at that earth, because the population is going up, and we use more and more water, greens, veggie, and everything. So, especially here in Dubai, every tomato, every cucumber, every apple, it's a treasure. It's a pure treasure. So we can't throw away some food waste. We should use everything. For example, in the dish of burrata with the tomatoes, we made the tomato confit with the vanilla bourbon, and the skin which left from the tomato, we make the chips and use it also for that dish. We made the sauce for the salad from the watermelon, and the old skins that left the green part, which left from the watermelon, we used to make the candies and give it for free for the people. That's the main idea, to use everything from nose to tail, and especially the product which was growing up in the sand.
I love that you've got that mindset and that everything is being used, nothing is going to waste, because as you say, every part of that vegetable or that food is precious. So to find ways to use your skills, your knowledge about the base of food, to then turn everything into something that is edible is absolutely fantastic. Yurii, this is a brilliant conversation, and I'm so enjoying hearing all your stories and your anecdotes and your experiences. It's been fantastic. Now we've come to the segment of our show where I will ask you some rapid fire questions. Our version of a game show. Are you ready?
Okay, let's try.
What is one food ingredient that you cannot live without?
It 100% will be the sour cream, because all Ukrainian gastronomy is based on the sour cream. We eat it with salads, we eat it with the starters, we use it for the desserts, we use it with the borscht, and even with the main course.
Fantastic. What is the most memorable meal you've ever had?
I think it's a borscht of my mom.
Who is one chef that has inspired you the most?
Was one guy, he's American, the Charlie Totter from the Chicago, and his restaurant taught us, but unfortunately he's passed away around maybe 10 years ago, and the restaurant also was closed, but he was absolutely passionate with the food person.
Fantastic. If you weren't a chef, what would you be doing?
I will be sculptor.
What is one thing that you do every day, no matter how busy you get?
I feed my guinea pigs. If I'm not feed them, they eat me.
Yeah, I bet. Very good. Well, thank you for playing along. That wasn't too difficult. Now I would like to ask you our signature green pill question. If you took the green pill to go back in time and change one thing about your journey, what would it be?
I've never opened the restaurant in London.
Very good. So there is something. Fantastic.
This was the biggest mistake in my life.
Do you want to expand a little bit on that, or that's enough?
I was too passionate. The war is just start, and I am jump in that wave, and so I spend a lot of time, spend a lot of money, and I understand that the London is not the city which I'm in love from the first sight. So, but I tried to make something. I made a lot of events, fundraising events. We collect around £3 million for the Ukrainians. Idea was like food for food. We are support the World Central Kitchen, Jose Andres. And then I start to understand that need to make something more global. I opened the restaurant. We support the guy who is coming from Ukraine. But it was quite tough. In half a year, I understand that it's too hard. I don't know. I didn't expect the taxes. I didn't expect the different rules and so on, so on. So, yeah.
You know what I love about this story is that somebody as successful as you've opened restaurants in so many different parts of the world, and you've had absolute success and such fantastic recognition that sometimes even someone who's successful can make mistakes, and then you recognize this was not the right thing, shut it down, and then moved on to create something else somewhere else that did work. So even for our guests and for myself, sometimes we make decisions that are not successful. But I think the lesson is recognize that you've made a mistake and then move on, but don't just give up because somewhere else you're going to make a success. I think that for me is the lesson from this.
You should take in your hands and just walking. That's all.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, that was a difficult time for you. So thank you for sharing that experience with us. I really appreciate that. Yurii, your journey has been truly inspiring and is truly inspiring. And your approach to food is nothing short of an art form. I think that would be the word I would say for the one word to describe you is art. But thank you for sharing your experiences and insights with us today. Before we wrap up, where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about YOY Neo Bistro?
The Neo Bistro is the concept which was created in France around 20 years ago. And it's something between high gastronomy and the bistro. So in French language, it calls bistronomie, two words, bistro and gastronomy. And it's something when the haute cuisine chef opens something more similar, use the simple ingredients with some small touch of the fine dining. And usually it's contemporary author cuisine, and chef try to share his knowledge, which he is collect around the world. So that's the idea.
Excellent. And do you have a website and social media for YOY Neo Bistro and for yourself as well?
I don't have the website. I'm just in the social media.
Okay. So we'll put some links in the show notes so that our audience can find you and as well YOY Neo Bistro as well. Again, Yurii, thank you so much for being here. I've absolutely loved this conversation.
Thank you for that meeting. Really give me the smile.
Super. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Matrix Green Pill podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and stay connected for more inspiring stories. Until next time, keep exploring, creating, and enjoying the flavors of life.
If you enjoy our conversations, please like and subscribe. See you next Wednesday.